Hi, I'm Philia Steyn and I'm the safari expert, and I've just spent 2 unforgettable weeks here in the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park. At the moment I'm camping here at Nosop. I've got a day and a half left before I go home, and I've kind of been sitting here reflecting about all the sort of pros and cons of the different camps and game viewing areas and waterholes, and I thought, let me share a few tips with you. Now, those of you that follow the channel will know that I've done some Kgalagadi tips videos before, and I'll link to those at the top. But in this one, I'll share hopefully a few tips that you haven't heard before. But before I share them with you, remember to order Kgalagadi Self-Drive Routes, Roads and Ratings by following the link that I've added at the top of the video description. It's by far the best book to help you plan a trip to the Kgalagadi. And if you use that link, you'll get a 10% discount when you check out. Now, let's quickly first talk about the different game viewing areas, and especially those around the 3 main camps, namely Tweerefuren, Mata and Nosop. Now, for some reason, there's this belief that Nosop is the best game viewing area in the park. Now, it might be great for lions, but I actually think that it's the worst game viewing area. And the reason for that is, well, first of all, the riverbed is extremely wide here, some of the widest in the whole park. And that means a lot of the sightings that you have are of animals very far away, making it difficult to photograph them and see them clearly. The other problem here around Nosop is that the road is very deep. It's kind of been eroded over the years, and that means that the edges are very, very high, often as high as your car. And on top of that, you have that ugly 3 thorn bushes. So visibility is also quite poor. So, like I said, even though it's a great area for lions, I find that your game viewing in general can be a lot better around Tweerefuren and Mata. In fact, your best chance of seeing lion, leopard and cheetah is definitely around Tweerefuren. There's often incredible lion sightings driving along the Nosop riverbed past Rooipoorts towards KK, and then cheetah and especially leopard are often seen sort of in the southern and central parts of the Aub River, easily reached from Tweerefuren. And then when it comes to Mata, I think that's by far the most scenic area. Now, I know you might say, well, scenery is not that important, animals are more important. But for me as a photographer, it's always great to be able to photograph those animals that I see in a very beautiful part of the reserve. And that area around Mata has some incredible camel thorn trees and also beautiful red sand dunes. And I just find that the waterholes there are nicer to sit next to. Waterholes like Dalkeith, 14th and 13th borehole, Craig Lockhart, any one of those can be incredibly productive on any given day, morning and afternoon. So if you ask me, be a little bit careful to think that Nosop is the only place that you're going to have great sightings. Give yourself enough time at Tweerefuren and Mata as well. Now let's talk a little bit about the camps themselves and what you can expect in those. And I'll start with Nosop. And the first thing that I want to say is be a little bit careful of these premium campsites, the ones that I'm staying at now. They might sound amazing because you get your own little kitchenette and toilet facilities, but in my mind, I was going to get something very exclusive, where in actual fact is they're very close together. And worst of all, they hardly have any shade. That's right, for someone like me that's here in midsummer, it's almost unbearable. And there's literally only 2 of them that I would recommend you stay at. Number 2, which is the best one if you ask me, and number 10 right at the far edge. Because both of those are a little bit further away from the other people, and they also have a few trees that give you shade. Now, how on earth you go about securing those 2, I don't know. But if you can't get premium campsite number 2 or number 10, don't even bother. Another thing that I have found here at Nosop that is a little bit frustrating is that there seems to be more people queuing at the gates early in the morning. And what that basically means, if you want to be out first, make sure you're there at least half an hour before the gates open to be the first one heading out. Because if you're not, you're going to eat dust. If you're not willing to get up that much earlier, I would highly recommend that you wait 5 to 10 minutes after the gates open and head out then, because all those people who have queued up will then be kind of spread out into the reserve. So either be there very early or leave 10 minutes after the gates open. Now, another thing I want to talk about, and that doesn't just go for Nosop, but the other camps as well, is you might be aware of the fact that you can buy little Wi-Fi vouchers at the shops. Now, the amazing thing is at the moment there are sort of Wi-Fi routers right throughout the camps, so that means you can pick up that Wi-Fi signal not only at the shop but at the office and in the campsite and also here on the far side of camp. But I have found that it's very often very unreliable. So what I've been doing is going to sit right next to the shop where the signal is at its strongest. But the tip that I want to give you is don't think that your Wi-Fi has necessarily run out if it stops working. Now you pay at this stage 75 Rand for 400 megabytes, and I thought that would disappear very, very quickly. But because the signal is so poor, it's almost impossible to upload photographs and download videos and stuff like that. So it actually lasts quite a long time just sending texts and voice notes to loved ones. But what often happens is it bombs out and you struggle a few times to connect again, and then you make the mistake of thinking that you've used up your 400 megabyte and you spend another 75 Rand. Keep those vouchers, keep putting in the username and passwords, and you might find that they last a lot longer than you think. Now, like I said before, I'm here during midsummer, and a lot of the days it has been 40 degrees Celsius or higher, and that has made the afternoon game drives nearly impossible to survive. And on top of that, all of the animals are lying in the deep shade. So what I've done is I've spent a lot of time in camp and just making the most of all the scenery and the animals in camp. I especially loved Mata Mata for the meerkat family that would come around every afternoon and kind of feed around me and drink from the small bit of water that would collect under the taps. And if you're willing to get down to eye level, lie on your stomach, you can get some incredible photographs as well. And it's a wonderful opportunity also to photograph the prolific bird life in camp, getting things like spotted eagle owls and crimson-breasted shrikes that are not necessarily that easy to photograph out on drive. At Tweerefieren, I actually took the time to drive south to Kalahari Trails, which is a meerkat sanctuary about half an hour from the gate. So that's a lovely morning activity where you go out and they actually show you the orphaned meerkats and walk up onto the dune and spend a little bit of time with them while you learn about the area and the ecology as well. It's also worthwhile stopping at Kgalagadi Lodge just outside Tweerefieren to grab a bite at the restaurant, maybe buy some fresh produce in the shop and use the Wi-Fi as well. Now, one of the biggest challenges on this trip specifically has been the issues that the park has had with their card machines, especially at the filling stations, which has made it impossible to fill up your tank if you don't have cash. So a couple of top tips. Always come with a lot of spare cash, because if those card machines are broken either at the filling stations or the shops, at least you can buy what you need. Secondly, bring some extra fuel if you can and keep it for a rainy day. If you have a roof rack, pop a jerry can or two on top and make sure that they're always filled up. Also, always make sure that you have extra drinking water. Not only because the water from the taps can make you very, very sick, but sometimes they run out of stock in the camps. So I always make sure that I have between 10 and 20 liters of drinking water stored either somewhere in the car in bottles or on top in my water tank. And then there's a couple of handy items that I can highly recommend you bring with to the park. First of all, make sure that you bring a fan with. So in the camps here, most of them use generators, so they have power sort of usually from 5 o'clock in the morning until about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, but then the power switches off. So if you're inside a chalet, that means it's going to get very hot very quickly once that air conditioner switches off. So having a small little rechargeable fan, or like me, a big desk fan that I connect to a portable power bank, that might just save your life in this heat. You can also take your little rechargeable fan with you out on game drive if you want to stay cool when you're parked off at a waterhole, because keeping the car running for the AC can just waste a lot of fuel. Not to mention bother the other people parked next to you. Another very useful item to bring with is a feather duster, because the wind comes up here when you least expect it and often when your car windows are down, and that just means a lot of sand and dust gets inside. So what I do every evening before I go on drive is I grab the feather duster and quickly clean everything around the front of the car, on the dash and around my camera gear so that it doesn't bother me when I go on drive the following morning. You might also be fooled into thinking that you can get away with just wearing flip-flops if you're here in summer because it's so hot. But I tell you what, there are thorns everywhere, especially here at Nosop in the campsite. big camel thorn tree thorns, so make sure you bring some closed shoes with thick soles as well. I've been wearing my gym green shullies, which have very strong thick soles, and it's been an absolute lifesaver. And of course, it's great to wear closed shoes at night for scorpions and snakes as well, especially on a windy night when the scorpions tend to be very active. And then last but not least, and definitely a tip that I've given before, make sure you order Kgalagadi Self-Drive, Routes, Roads and Ratings. Guys, this book really is absolutely incredible because it covers every single waterhole and stretch of road between those waterholes, giving you an idea of what you can expect at each of them. So like I said, go and check out the link at the top of the video description, and if you use that, you can order this book online and you'll get a 10% discount when you check out. As always, a massive shout out to all my patrons who support the channel each and every month. For those of you that don't know it, Patreon is an amazing website that allows people like you to support content creators like myself by making a small monthly donation for some rewards. And those rewards could include a mention in the video like you just saw, early access to the videos, some wildlife photographs for smartphone wallpapers, and even access to my best-selling online course called Wildlife Photography for Beginners and Amateurs. So if you'd like to support the channel, go and check out the link that I've added below the one for Kgalagadi Self-Drive. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to ask any questions you might have about the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park in the comments down below. Until next time.
Hey little guy.